The explosion hit before Kael even landed. He rolled across the burning deck, came up on one knee, blade already drawn, eyes scanning fast. The ship was a wreck, corridors collapsed, emergency lights flickering red, the smell of scorched metal thick in the air. Void creatures poured through a breach in the hull like black water through a cracked dam, their limbs too long, their movements too fluid, their silence more terrifying than any sound. Kael moved through them without hesitation. Left, right, down. He had trained for this since he was 9 years old. Mordecai had made sure of that. Asterisk, find the queen. Take the core. Come back free. Asterisk. Those were the words his master had given him like a gift. Freedom, the one thing Kael had been chasing for 15 years of blood and obedience. One last job and he was done. One last kill and he could disappear. He cut through another creature and pushed deeper into the ship, following the faint pulse of energy that his scanner said was the life core. The source of the Velmari people's power. Ancient. Irreplaceable. Priceless. He was close. He could feel it. Then the ceiling came down. A void creature twice the size of the others slammed through the wall beside him, and the impact sent Kael flying. He hit the ground hard, something in his side cracking on contact. He tried to stand and his legs refused. The creature loomed over him, its hollow face tilting sideways like it was studying something curious. Kael raised his blade. Then light, clean, sharp, absolute cut through the creature from behind, and it dissolved like smoke and wind. He blinked. A woman stood where the creature had been. Tall, calm, wrapped in pale armor that seemed to absorb the red emergency light around her. Her eyes were silver. Her expression was not afraid. She looked at him the way someone looks at a problem they have already decided to solve. Asterisk, can you move? Asterisk, she asked. I don't need your help, he said, and then passed out. He woke up warm, which was unfamiliar. The room was quiet and softly lit. His wounds were clean and wrapped. His weapons were gone, but he was alive, which meant she had chosen to let him be alive. Seraphine sat across from him, watching without judgment. You came from outside the attack, she said. Asterisk, which means you weren't running from the void. You were coming here on purpose. Asterisk. Kael said nothing. I'm not going to pretend I don't know what that might mean, she continued, her voice even. Asterisk, but you were dying. And I couldn't let that happen. It's not in me. Asterisk. That's a weakness, Kael said flatly. She looked at him for a long moment. Asterisk, maybe. Or maybe it's the only thing that separates us from the void. Asterisk. He had no answer for that. The days that followed were the strangest of his life. He told himself he was waiting, recovering, planning, choosing the right moment to complete what he came to do. But Seraphine did not behave like someone who needed to be destroyed. She moved through the broken ship with quiet purpose, repairing what she could, speaking softly to the stars through the observation window each night like she was keeping a conversation going with people who were no longer there. One evening, he found her sitting on the floor of the corridor, her back against the wall, eyes closed. Asterisk, who are you talking to? Asterisk, he asked. She opened her eyes. Asterisk, my people. The ones the void took. I tell them what I see each day so they don't feel forgotten. Asterisk. Kael leaned against the opposite wall. Asterisk, they're gone. They can't hear you. Asterisk. I know, she said simply. Asterisk, I do it for me. Asterisk. He sat down without meaning to. Asterisk, how many? Asterisk, he asked. All of them, she said. Asterisk, 7 worlds. 40 billion lives. Gone in 11 years while every other civilization debated whether it was their problem to solve. Asterisk, she said it without bitterness, which made it worse. Asterisk, my mother was the last queen. She gave me the life core and told me to survive long enough for it to find the right person. Asterisk. Kael felt something shift in his chest that had nothing to do with his injuries. Asterisk. What does that mean, the right person? Asterisk. Seraphine looked at him with those silver eyes, steady and unreadable. Asterisk. I'm still figuring that out. Asterisk. That night, Kael stood over the life core where it rested in a chamber at the heart of the ship. It pulsed softly, warm gold, rhythmic, almost like breathing. He reached out. His fingers hovered over it. He stood there for a long time. He walked away. He told himself it was strategy. He told himself he needed to be stronger before he tried. He told himself a dozen things that had nothing to do with the truth. The truth was that for the first time in 15 years, he was somewhere that did not feel like a cage, with someone who had not yet tried to use him, and he did not know what to do with that. His communicator buzzed. Mordecai's signal. You're taking too long. His master's voice came through, low and controlled. Asterisk. Asterisk, is it done? Asterisk. Soon, Kael said. Asterisk, Kael. Asterisk, a pause. Asterisk, do not make me come there. Asterisk. The line went dead. Kael stared at the communicator in his hand for a long moment, then looked back toward the corridor where the soft sound of Seraphine's voice drifted through the dark, still talking to the stars, still keeping her dead from being forgotten. He closed his fist around the communicator. He did not move. The void came back on the fourth night, and this time it came with intent. The ship screamed as creatures tore through 3 sections simultaneously. Kael was moving before he was fully awake, blade in hand, every instinct firing at once. He found Seraphine already in the corridor, her hands raised, channeling light from the life core to push the creatures back. She was holding, but barely. There are too many, she said, her voice strained but controlled. Then we move faster, Kael said, and stepped in front of her. They fought side by side through corridors and collapsed chambers, him cutting through anything that moved, her sealing the breaches with bursts of life core energy. For 20 minutes the ship was nothing but fire and noise and survival. Then a void creature hit Seraphine from behind, the one neither of them had seen, and she went down hard. No, Kael spun, blade driving through the creature, but the damage was done. Seraphine was on the ground, eyes barely open, the light around her flickering. The life core began to pulse wildly. The rhythm broke apart. It rose from its chamber on its own, pulled toward her, then past her. Drifting. Searching. It found Kael. It entered his chest before he could speak. The world stopped. He felt everything at once, the warmth of Velmari children laughing in streets that no longer existed, the sound of 40 billion voices that the void had swallowed into silence, Seraphine's grief carried alone for years, her mother's last words, her stubborn, desperate hope that it would not all have been for nothing. He felt it all like it was his own memory. He screamed not in pain, but in the unbearable weight of recognition. He had been empty his entire life without ever knowing it. Now he was full, and it was almost too much to carry. When he came back to himself, the creatures were gone. The ship was quiet. Seraphine was sitting up, watching him with wide eyes, one hand pressed to her chest where the core had been. "It chose you," she whispered. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "Neither did I," she said quietly. Asterisk, but here we are. Asterisk. Neither of them moved for a long moment. "I came here to take it from you," he said. It came out before he could stop it, flat, honest, stripped of everything except the truth. Seraphine looked at him. The silence between them was enormous. "I know," she finally said. Asterisk, you knew. Asterisk. Asterisk, from the beginning. Asterisk, she pulled her knees to her chest. Asterisk, but you didn't. And that told me more about you than your mission did. Asterisk. Before he could respond, the ship rocked violently and Mordecai's vessel locked onto them from outside. His master came aboard like a verdict. Tall, gray-eyed, unhurried. Mordecai walked through the wreckage of the ship with the calm of a man who had already decided how everything would end. "I told you not to make me come here," he said, stopping in front of Kael. "Leave," Kael said. Mordecai's eyes moved to Seraphine briefly, then back. Step aside. Give me the core and I will let her live. You have my word. Your word, Kael repeated. Something that might have been a laugh came out wrong. You told me I would be free after this. You told me that when I was 9 years old, and you have been telling me ever since. There is always one more job. There is always one more reason. I made you, Mordecai said quietly. Everything you are. Everything I was, Kael said. Get out of my way. Mordecai moved first. The fight was brutal and deeply personal in the way that only a battle between a student and the man who built him could be. Every strike Mordecai threw, Kael had seen 1,000 times in training. Every counter, every feint, every pressure point, he knew them all because Mordecai had put them in him. But Mordecai had not trained him to want something worth fighting for. That made all the difference. Kael drove his master back, hard, relentless, refusing to absorb punishment the way he once had. He fought like someone with something to protect rather than something to prove, and when he finally had Mordecai pinned and disarmed, he stood over him breathing hard. Mordecai looked up at him. Kill me or this is never over. I know, Kael said. But I am done doing things because they are easier than feeling something. He stepped back. The void is still coming, Mordecai said from the floor, his voice stripped of performance for the first time. Almost quiet. Almost human. You cannot stop it with sentiment. No, Kael agreed. But I can stop it with purpose. Mordecai left. Wounded, diminished, but alive, and Kael knew that was a problem for another day. Today it was the right choice. They traveled to what remained of the Velmari homeworld, broken land masses drifting in the silence of dead orbit. Kael stood at the edge of the wreckage with the life core warm in his chest, and Seraphine beside him, and together they called her people home. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was simply right. The spirits came like light through water, one by one, released into something larger and quieter than grief. Seraphine wept without sound. Kael stood close enough that their shoulders touched and did not move away. When it was over, she looked at him. What now? She asked. He looked toward the horizon. The void was still out there, patient, enormous, waiting. Something worth doing, he said. She nodded once. And they walked forward together. If the story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. There is so much more where this came from. Drop in the comments, would you watch a full series of The Core Within? Let us know,